Hello there, Star Wars fans, and welcome to the third and final, at least for now, installment of the What If Luke Joined the Empire fan fiction. It's taken some crazy paths, we've gone down a fun road, and we're here on episode 3 of the trilogy, the first trilogy that I've done on here. Someday I'll put it all together in one video, maybe add a bit of a fourth part, but who knows. For now, this is part 3, the final part, so listen in, sit back, relax. Please do leave a like, please subscribe, it helps out a lot. It's the easiest way to support, so thank you all very much. I've enjoyed making this, I hope you've enjoyed listening. Alright, let's get into it. As a reminder, when we left off, Luke and Leia teamed up after Vader and Obi-Wan were destroyed, and in their final wishes, they asked for Luke and Leia to basically take out the Emperor and avenge their deaths. So that's where we're at. Hope you enjoyed the first 2 parts. Hope you enjoy number 3 even more. Let's get into it. Luke and Leia sat around a fire on the planet of Kashyyyk. The Death Star was orbiting with Emperor Palpatine on it above the planet, and the siblings were about ready to attack the Emperor on the battle station. It was above Kashyyyk as an intimidation tactic, getting the Wookiees to do the Empire's bidding. Luke and Leia had been together now about a month since their battle on Tatooine. They needed time after the battle to truly get to know each other and determine a plan of action to ultimately destroy the Emperor. They'd been enemies for a long time, without truly knowing the other existed, and now they were working together to achieve the goal of both of their masters: destroy the Emperor. It wasn't easy though. It wasn't easy to get along, it wasn't easy to work together right away. Luke, he wanted to kill the Emperor to avenge Vader, his father. The Emperor had used Vader as a threatening machine, rather than allowing him to reach his full potential and just become a powerful Sith Lord. Vader believed the Emperor also played a direct role in separating him from his children. Luke was as close as one could be to being a Sith, but this time with his sister allowed him to become also more balanced as he learned about the light side of it from her. Leia, on the other hand, was a Jedi trained by Obi-Wan, and also another master called Yoda. Leia described him to Luke as a small, wise, green Jedi that had been around for 900 or so years. He had eventually passed on into the Force a few years ago now, but Leia was trained by the best. She wanted to kill the Emperor to restore peace in the galaxy and let the leaders of the rebellion lead a new republic. She also, though, knew how to touch the darkness sometimes. It's how she'd killed Vader on Tatooine. She, like Luke, could balance in the light and the dark. But the two had been learning from each other. Together they'd plotted a way to get aboard the Death Star and confront the Emperor. They had a plan that should at least get them aboard the battle station. Whatever happens from there is anyone's guess. And over the last couple weeks, Luke and Leia had formed a plan getting into communication with the Wookiee leaders. They'd explained that they are warriors themselves, attempting to kill the Emperor, but they needed the Wookiees' help. When the time comes, Luke and Leia will steal an Imperial ship, while Wookiees fight off any stormtrooper defense. Then, they will pretend to chase the ship Luke and Leia are in to the Death Star, where Luke and Leia will have to make an emergency landing, and they go from there. That was the plan. Would it work? They'll see. And yet the plan was flawed, but it was likely to be their best shot. And the night approached before the big day came. Luke and Leia began to sleep among the trees. And as Luke dozed off, a vision, or a dream perhaps, began to emerge in his mind. Luke had never seen the Emperor with his own eyes, but in his vision, a wrinkled, old man with blood-red eyes stared at a figure. That figure, Luke came to realize, was Luke himself, and he was kneeling in front of him. That couldn't be. Luke kneeling in front of the Emperor, and next to him was his sister, Leia, dead on the ground from a lightsaber cut. The Emperor in this vision spoke to Luke. "Good, Luke, good. My powerful apprentice you will become." Luke jolted awake. It was only a dream, but somehow it had lasted the entire night. The sun was rising now, and it was time to prepare to leave. Luke couldn't quite shake the dream, though. It was so real, like a premonition of the future. He would not bow down to the Emperor. He couldn't. He would not make the same mistake as his father. Luke and Leia packed everything they needed, and they met the Wookiees in their village outside of the Imperial base. The Imperial shuttle they were going to steal was just ahead, and after a bit of final plan discussions, Luke and Leia took off towards it, lightsabers ignited, running to the base. The Wookiees emerged behind them, firing strong blasts at control panels and other ships to shut down any communication or escape. Luke and Leia took out the stormtroopers around the base. They were truly no match for the two children of Anakin Skywalker, and with quick and brutal precision, the stormtroopers were cut down or killed with the Force without having any chance to relay communications outward. The plan was in motion. Luke and Leia got into the shuttle and took off. A group of Wookiees in salvaged ships from the wars followed behind them, pretending to fire critical shots at Luke and Leia. As the two approached the Death Star, they alerted the hangar bay that they were making an emergency landing, with no time to discuss alternative options. The Wookiees made it look convincing, with a few minor shots to the shuttle, and then pulled away right as the shuttle slid into the hangar. Luke and Leia were in, and they had no plans of sneaking around. They were here to bring an end to the Empire, in honor of their fallen masters. As the shuttle skidded across the ground, they flipped out of it at once, reminiscent of Anakin and Obi-Wan back in the Clone Wars on the Invisible Hand. They flipped out, landing, igniting their sabers, and cutting down any stormtroopers in their way as they sprinted to the elevator door. As they entered the elevator, a small group of troopers were taken aback in shock inside of the elevator. "Halt! You can't be here," one said with a shaky voice. Luke paid him no mind, and they looked at each other, looked at the troopers, cut them down rather easily. Stormtroopers were of no issue to these two at this point. Now, to the Emperor's office. Things were rather easy up to this point. Luke and Leia began rising through the battle station, and Leia couldn't help but speak her thoughts. "I have a bad feeling about this," she told Luke. Luke responded, "We've been preparing for a long time. We're ready for this. Kill the Emperor, and then you can rebuild it into whatever your rebellion wants." "So you won't be joining us in the rebellion?" Leia asked. Luke waited a moment before saying, "I don't think so. I want to expand my power around the galaxy. Peacefully to your rebellion, of course. I have little interest in ruling a galaxy at this point. Rather, learning anything and everything I can about the Force." "Very well then," said Leia, as they reached the top. The door opened, and 5 guards dressed in all red turned to them, weapons ready for battle. Luke and Leia ignited their lightsabers, and a voice spoke out from the background. "Gods, don't be foolish. Leave us." Hesitantly, the guards put down their weapons, walked into the elevator after Luke and Leia had walked by them. The two then approached a set of stairs, and waiting at the top was the old, disheveled man that Luke had seen in his dream. Despite his looks, Luke and Leia felt an icy darkness. They'd felt darkness in Vader, but this was somehow so much different, so much worse. And he spoke. "Finally, the children of Anakin Skywalker have come to me. It is as I predicted. Now, the options for you are simple. Take your places at my side, or die." Leia spoke up immediately. "Never. You've ruled this galaxy out of fear for long enough. Your rule ends today, Emperor." Palpatine simply turned to Luke. "Predictable, isn't she, young Luke? The Jedi are blinded by their own definition of peace. Need I remind you, the galaxy was at peace before your rebellion emerged." "You're mistaking peace with fear," Leia said. Luke still hadn't spoken. He was staring at Palpatine with an anger for what he did to his father, and Palpatine turned to him again. "Luke, what is it you want? Power, I assume? Strength in the Force? to become all-powerful. Only through me can you achieve the ultimate power in the galaxy, the power to cheat death, and even communicate with the dead. Join me, and I will teach you to speak to your fallen father." Luke was shocked. He was taken aback. How could that be possible? He could talk to his father? He could still learn from his father? "Kill her, and take your place at my side. Begin your path to immortality," Palpatine said. Leia stepped in now. "Enough! Luke, these are the same empty promises he made to our father. He's trying to do the same thing to you. Don't listen." Palpatine stared at them with a smile that had no happiness behind it, only evil. Luke knew Leia was right, but what if she wasn't? Seconds felt like years as Luke stood there, and then a voice spoke to him. "Trust Leia." Luke didn't know who it was, or even if it was real, but he had to listen. The decision was made. He'd made the decision moments ago. He was ready. He was going to do what he came here to do: kill the Emperor. He ignited his red saber and said, "You destroyed my father, destroyed our family. I'll never join you." Leia ignited her blue lightsaber. Here they were, brother and sister, offspring of the Chosen One, fighting as one now. Palpatine's smile only grew. "So be it, fools. You will now learn the true power of the dark side as you die." And without warning, Palpatine launched himself at the two rebels with a shrieking scream, his lightning-fast strike sending Luke and Leia stumbling backwards. The sounds of clashing lightsabers immediately filled the room as the three combatants engaged in a deadly lightsaber dance. Palpatine's skill with a lightsaber was beyond impressive, something Luke and Leia had underestimated just looking at him. And still, the two fought as one, their movements rather synchronized and graceful as they fought the evil Sith Lord. Luke swung his lightsaber in a wide arc, forcing Palpatine to leap backwards to avoid his deadly blade, and Leia took advantage of the quick opening, launching herself at the Sith Lord now, with a flurry of lightsaber attacks. Palpatine was quick to counter, his own lightsaber deflecting her blows effortlessly, and with another snarl, he sent a strong burst of Force lightning crackling toward the Jedi Princess, forcing her to leap away. As the fight continued, Luke and Leia realized Palpatine was toying with them. His strength was crazy. It was unlike anything they'd ever felt, or even thought possible. He parried their attacks with ease, his movements almost bored and casual, predicting every move from Luke and Leia. The two exchanged a worried glance. They needed to figure this out fast. Palpatine began to cackle with glee, unleashing a blast of Force lightning that sent both Luke and Leia flying across the room. They hit the wall with a thud, their sabers clattering to the ground. Palpatine strode over to them, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Your pathetic rebellion ends here," he sneered as he stared at Leia and began electrocuting her with immense power. He thought if he did this, Luke may turn, Luke may see his power and want it for himself. But Luke was determined and ready to learn by himself. He thought if he killed the Emperor, he could learn anything himself without any binds of a master or anyone holding him back. Luke was not defeated. He leapt to his feet, eyes blazing with dark power, and he channeled all of his hatred into a huge burst of Force push that engulfed Palpatine, sending him reeling backwards. He hit the back of the stairs, Luke lifted him, and Leia joined in, forcing him, crushing him with her own Force powers. Palpatine was no match now for the combined might of the two Jedi, holding him up, beginning to crush him with the Force. He shrieked in fury as he was consumed by their power, his body writhing in agony. And with a final burst of energy, Palpatine was gone. Sparks and smoke where he once stood. And Luke and Leia stood there, panting, their eyes wide with shock. They'd defeated the most powerful Sith Lord. They couldn't believe it, but they'd done it. They'd done what they came to do. They'd won. And now, they just had to destroy the battle station. They hadn't won yet. They knew the fight was far from over, but for now they were victorious. But they had a plan. They made their way through the Death Star to the Death Star cannon, and together they ran their lightsabers through the control panels and then crushed the opening of the cannon with the Force. The battle station was now set to fire, and it could not be shut off, and it was going to fire a blast in on itself. The two quickly made their way to the shuttle, escaping as alarms blared and panicked Empire troopers were focused only on escape. The shuttle narrowly made it out as the battle station exploded into a million pieces. The station Luke had saved not long ago was now gone. He did it all for his father. He did it all for his own power, which he would achieve. Luke and Leia would go their separate ways, but they would embrace after this, swearing to always trust each other. If either of them were ever in dire trouble, find each other. They embraced, and Luke headed off. They thanked each other for the help, and Luke went to go off on his own. Learn all the powers of the Force. Learn to cheat death, to truly do it. Leia went off to rebuild the rebellion, to help reassemble the fallen rebellion and build it in the Empire's place, taking out any Imperial remnants along the way with her own immense power. She was the Jedi the galaxy needed, and Luke was always around if she needed him. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the trilogy. In the end, Luke and Leia kill the Emperor. They go their separate ways as they have different paths in this galaxy. Let me know what you thought of the whole story. If you watched parts 1, 2, and 3, which I highly recommend, be a little strange to just listen to this one, but hey, to each their own. Anyways, I appreciate you all. Please leave a like, please subscribe, leave a comment. Did you like this? Do you want to see more? Anyways, probably not going to do a part 4. That's just getting crazy. You can imagine the story from here on out if you'd like. Yeah, it was just kind of a story about Luke and Leia taking on the Emperor to avenge their masters, and we achieved that. So thank you all. See you in the next video.